How do we use GPT in an ethical way to help us prepare for our assignments? This is the classroom content that's specific to this topic. This one's about unconscious bias in our classroom. This article is an invitation to consider the paradox that when we own ignorance as a normal state of being, then we may be more open to learning and being more knowledgeable. What I want to do is give this information to GPT. Once I upload all those documents, I can then switch over to an audio format and brainstorm with it. I want to create a new document that is the prompt that we're going to be doing. So we're learning and teaching 2, assignment 1, GPT prompt. Give a little hashtag, which is kind of a header, class content. It's going to be in there. That is the link to our stream assignment description. We have our assignment description. Where is our document that we're creating? There we go. Yay. We're also going to have some like supplemental documents. First one's going to be this article. So what we got here. So what I like about this is that we're encouraging curiosity. I am a strong believer that curiosity is the opposite of bitterness. Help me summarize this document in a single paragraph using my own personal anecdote that curiosity helps prevent bitterness. We're going to delimit these by 3 backticks. So we're going to copy that and we're going to put that in here. So this one is, we're going to delimit that by 3 backtick called a passion for ignorance. What other supplemental documents do we have? This one, Maori literacies. So we're going to snag this. Please summarize this in 2 paragraphs. This all seems like it's really relevant. I'll put this in through backticks. Here, boom, boom, 2 hashtags, boom. This guy, let's put it in just like that. Back to the link for the entire class content. Copy this whole thing. Use a table of contents. The class content, we'll go back here. Summarize this in 2 paragraphs. So we can take that and we're going to put it into the class content here. Actual assignment description. Take the whole thing, but I'm going to remove some of those due dates. Those aren't option. Please wait for further insertion before we go ahead and create the blueprint for this YouTube video. Cool, so now we got everything. So I'm gonna copy this in, I'm gonna create, and then I'm just gonna post everything in there. Cool, says got it. I'll hold off until you give me the go ahead. And at this point we've uploaded all the documents and now we can switch from the typing version, we can switch over to the audio to where we can brainstorm with it. And we can go ahead and open up the app, and I'm going to open up the previous conversation we had on this one, which is streaming classroom plan. That's where we said, okay, I got it, cool. So we'll hit the button. Hey, okay, so concerning streaming in a classroom, right now I teach 2 classes. I teach a year 10 upper in maths and a year 11 foundations. Some of the benefits I find is that as a teacher, we can equally distribute our attention across all the students, where if they were mixed, I feel like some of the students who need a little more help, we'd be focusing on them and kind of ignoring some of the hires. Also, another one to add is that the challenges that come with having a streamed classroom is that I can take the challenges for them appropriate, so that they're just challenging enough. They're not too challenging where the students check out, and they're not too easy for them. I want to create a couple bullet points I need to make for a YouTube video to explain the pluses and the minuses of streaming in a classroom.
All right, let's break it down into some bullet points for your video. Positives of streaming: focused attention. Teachers can balance their attention more evenly since all students in a group have similar learning needs. Tailored challenges. You can adjust the difficulty level to match the group's abilities, keeping them engaged without overwhelming or boring them. Paced learning, students can move at a comfortable pace, which can reduce anxiety and build confidence. Drawbacks of streaming, fixed mindsets. Students might get stuck thinking they're either smart or not, which can hurt motivation and self-worth, especially for those placed in lower streams. Reinforces inequity. Streaming can perpetuate biases and inequalities, often affecting marginalized groups like Maori and Pacifica students. Pressure on upper streams. Students in higher streams might feel extra pressure to perform, which can cause stress and burnout. We can flesh these out with more of your personal anecdotes and experiences to make it relatable and engaging for your audience.
What I want to do is start off with an introduction. So the first bullet point should be like what we're talking about. Also want to incorporate the document on embodied teaching, where using that as a method of kind of pushing against any of these biases that can happen as being considered, with the labels of being I'm doing an air quotes, but the cabbage class or one of the higher performing ones. If there's any ways to fight against that, because the benefits of streaming, I think, are there, but I do want to present both, right? But I also want to see, is there a way that we can take in streaming and use it in a way that can fight against those unconscious biases that are unintentional, right? So give me some bullet points, starting with the introduction, and then ending with conclusion, including the supplemental documentation that we talked about too.
Absolutely. Here's a rough outline with bullet points that you can use for your video. Introduction. Briefly explain what streaming is in the context of New Zealand classrooms, splitting classes into upper and lower groups. Introduce the purpose of the video, exploring both the benefits and drawbacks of streaming, and considering how embodied teaching practices can help mitigate biases. Positives of streaming: balanced teacher attention, easier to cater to the needs of students at similar levels. Appropriate challenge: adjust difficulty so students are neither overwhelmed nor bored. Risk of fixed mindsets: students may internalize labels and limit their own potential. Reinforcement of biases: streaming can unintentionally perpetuate inequities impacting marginalized students. Incorporating embodied teaching: discuss how embodied teaching using gestures, positioning, and multimodal tools can create a more inclusive classroom environment. Emphasize how the practices help fight unconscious biases by valuing all students' contributions regardless of their stream. And conclusion, reiterate the importance of recognizing both the pros and cons of streaming. Highlight the potential of combining streaming with embodied teaching and culturally responsive practices to create a more equitable learning environment. We can always tweak and add more personal stories or insights to really drive these points home.
So I'm going to end it there. And it's coming up with some bullet points, but for me, it's using phrasing that I personally wouldn't use. But at this point, typically I'd be wearing my headphones and I've got it on the audio mode. I'll be doing something like the dishes. The point that I wanted to bring here is that I'm loading up the documents in phase 1, and then phase 2 is I'm focusing on the audio portion where I'm dialoguing with GPT, trying to figure out a bullet pointed plan that works for me, that's authentic, it's real, it's reflecting on the documents that I had read already. So we want to summarize each of those documents and then put those into GPT. So that is my responsibility, to be reading those documents, be reading the class content. As a student who's also teaching, it can be really overwhelming to have all of those at the same time, not really knowing where to start. Assignment description is really ambiguous intentionally, which can be hard. So having these documents loaded up, having everything into GPT can help narrow down what it is that, how it is I want to deliver that assignment in a way that fits with my own personality. So there you go. That's the ethical use of GPT with this particular assignment for learning and teaching. Number 2, Module A. Thanks for watching.